been chasing this interview for a while with the Mayor of Napier, in actual fact, not the Mayor of Hastings, the Mayor of Napier, Kirsten Wise. I'll let you get that up. But this is to do with the Cyclone Gabrielle recovery and the government's curious officer to councils on who pays what and who pays. And a decision was made about 2 weeks ago. Not a lot of detail have come out about this. And I have to say, it does appear from an external point of view, and that's the only thing I can say, from an external point of view, that the ratepayers of Wairoa, Gisborne, Hastings, Napier and Central Hawke's Bay, as well as, I assume, Auckland, but that's a much bigger area, are going to be paying out millions, possibly tens of millions of dollars to resettle those people in something called the Category 3 homes. Now, the category, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm sure you are. Gosh, if you lived there, you'd be aware. For those homes that were damaged by the flood and the torrential downpours associated with the Cyclone Gabrielle devastation, wherever they were given a rating, which is 1, 2 or 3. And 3 was the worst, and 3 meant you can't go back there, or alternatively your house is destroyed completely, and who's going to pay for it? And the nature of that deal has been, I think, a little misunderstood, not well understood by the rest of us. We're all in on this because we're taxpayers at the end of the day. It's our taxes that we're paying for that. But in the past, and I know as a mayor myself, or previous mayor myself, when I had a natural disaster, the government rode in and paid for 100% of everything. And that, I'm pretty sure, also happened in the Christchurch disaster in the wake of the earthquake, where the government stepped in with literally billions of dollars. But the rules might have changed, and we've got the Mayor of Napier, Kirsten Wise, with us now to let us know if indeed they have. Kirsten, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on. Welcome. Lovely place, Hawke's Bay. Is it nice today?
We have got a beautiful day today, blue skies, and I think we're about 17 degrees, so we're enjoying that.
Yeah, you've had quite a good winter, haven't you?
It hasn't been too bad, but I have to say I think we are all very much looking forward to summer.
Yes, you've had a tough time. All right, now, can you take us through, Kirsten? I know it's been reported, but there have been so many I's not dotted and T's not crossed that we're not quite aware. The government has come up with an offer, as I understand, to the councils as to how to deal with all those folk who have been permanently affected by Cyclone Gabrielle. Can you take us through what that deal is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we entered into a negotiation process several weeks ago with the government. And at the start of that process, we were essentially told that we would be receiving a 50-50 cost-sharing agreement for the voluntary property buyouts. It wasn't up for negotiation at any stage. We were just told that's what would be happening. And at the beginning of the negotiations, that was all they were prepared to talk about, full stop. Mm-hmm. We had a very strong negotiating team led by Chris Finlayson.
Oh, yep.
We did try desperately to have the 50-50 cost sharing reviewed, but it was made very clear right from day one that was never going to be open for discussion. And we managed to get on the table the additional funding around flood protection and transport grading projects, which are actually absolutely vital to ensure that a number of the properties that were sitting in Category 2 would stay in Category 2 and not move into Category 3, which would, of course, then increase, significantly what we were having to fund in terms of those voluntary property buyouts. So in a nutshell, that was the offer that has come to us as councils.
Right. Yes, that is very different. Did that shock and surprise you, given previous government responses to these kind of natural disasters?
Oh, it really did, and obviously our starting position was 100%. As you said earlier, there's precedents, Christchurch being the most recent one, and there was an outright refusal to either consider that or anything other than the 50-50, and the government has repeatedly explained that the reason for that is that there will be more frequent weather events and they simply can't afford to continue down the path of funding these property buyouts 100%.
So they made that decision, though, and made that observation, did they, after Cyclone Gabrielle? Because you certainly wouldn't have been aware of it, wouldn't you, before that event?
Oh, no, absolutely not. And as I said, our expectation, certainly very early on, post-cyclone, was that if we did end up in a situation with property buyouts, that would sit with the government and it would not sit with us as local authorities.
Now, the 5 councils, or is it 6, including the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, composed this negotiating team. Was it 5 or 4 or 6?
5 councils, so Central Hawke's Bay, Hastings, Napier, Wairoa and the Regional Council.
Right.
And the other really important part to understand around this offer is that all 5 councils must accept it, or if one council falls out, the whole offer is off the table.
Oh, wow, that's some pressure, isn't it?
It really is, because we're all quite unique in terms of the way we've been impacted and the way that we need to move forward. But we have been working very, very closely together as a region, and we are committed to supporting each other as much as we possibly can.
All right, but Kirsten, we've talked about this before. The worst affected council in terms of volume of properties that we're talking about is Hastings, is it?
Yes, absolutely. They have a significant number of properties in Category 3.
Okay. And then what, Wairoa would be second or Central Hawke's Bay?
No, we're second.
Oh,
Wairoa and Central Hawke's Bay have no properties in Category 3.
Okay. All right. So there is some concern, though, I would imagine, from Hastings, or are you cross-subsidising each other? So let me give an example. If there are more houses in Hastings with Sandra Hazelhurst's mob, does that mean the ratepayers of Wairoa, Central Hawke's Bay Regional Council, etc., Napier, proportionately have to pay for them as well?
No, it sits with each individual council.
Right. So, well, that's good from your point of view, is it?
Well, I mean, obviously, for those of us councils that haven't been as significantly impacted, and for our ratepayers, then yes, that is, and that is why it's been so difficult for us to, need to stick together as a region and support each other. But at the same time, we are ultimately responsible for our own ratepayers, and that has to be our number one priority.
Yes. Okay. So Hastings would be balking at this, I would imagine. Are they?
No, they're not. I think the fact that we were able to negotiate the additional funding, of which the transport and roading in particular, the largest proportion of that is going to the Hastings District Council, right, has enabled them to get to a position where they are at least, willing to take this to the next stage, which for Hastings and us in Napier is that we actually have to go out and consult with our communities on this now.
So this is, there's a particular policy you all have to have as councils when something major happens, is it? You've got to go through a compulsory consultation process, do you?
That's right. So the Local Government Act dictates that we must have a significance and engagement policy.
Right. Yeah, that's the one.
And the fact that this is essentially a new activity, this isn't something that traditionally councils have done, going out and buying residential properties, that triggers our significance and engagement policy.
Listen, Kirsten, I'm not being stupid here or funny, but I mean, I've been through the process myself. I'm still elected regional councillor, but is the consultation process really just ticking the boxes?
I have to say that there is a huge amount of frustration for us that we have been required to do this because we know that there's no further negotiation with the government. The offer is what it is. We did talk to, we were blue in the face, in fact, with the negotiating team, asking them to do an order in council to exempt us from having to consult.
Yes, because it's more money too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. That's right. It means we're now having to do a long-term plan amendment, and it means we're having to spend money and go out and consult with our community. When at the end of the day, if, for example, we have a resounding feedback from our community that they are not happy to proceed with this, and one of the councils chooses to therefore reject the offer, we know the end result of that is simply that the offer is gone. And we're back to square one. Okay,
so at the moment, the sort of legal position is that you're really still in a negotiation phase, that there's no deal done yet because you haven't finished that consultation process.
So, yes and no. Ultimately, once we finish the consultation and if all councils then decide to do the final vote in favour of the offer, then that is the deal done. There is no requirement to go back to the negotiating team and do anything further.
Right.
So from the government's perspective, they've done all that they need to do, and it's just us finalising the process with the consultation.
Okay, so when are you expect to complete that by?
So we are able to fast track that under the Swirler legislation. So rather than consulting for a month, which is our normal minimum period, we are consulting for 14 days, and then it will take a week to 2 weeks to obviously analyse the submissions and then come back to council for that final decision. We are really hopeful that we'll be in a position by late September to start talking to our Category 3 property owners. And I guess what underpins this whole process is ultimately we do want these people to be able to move on with their lives. We're so conscious that 6 months on already, they still don't know what's happening. So, you know, we really are focused on trying to be in a position by the end of next month to start those voluntary property buyouts with those property owners.
If I was a ratepayer in Napier, the only question I'd be asking is how much is this going to cost me as part of that consultation process? Have you been able to define the cost to the council from this deal?
We have done some modelling based on the properties that we know sit in Category 3 and the data we've received from, for example, insurance companies in terms of what insurance they've already received. So we've got a consultation document that we're adopting this Thursday, and it includes the information around what we expect those costs to be and the rates impact of that. For us in Napier, it's not a huge amount. I mean, Hastings is the one, as you mentioned earlier, that is really significantly impacted from a financial perspective. So, you know, really we'll be going out to our ratepayers and ultimately asking them, are you happy to adopt this new activity, and asking a series of questions for their feedback.
Okay, so how much have you costed it? Ballpark figure is it going to cost altogether, do you think, the Napier City Council?
So the current modelling we've got is the cost to us will be around $3.5 million.
Oh, well, that's not too bad. But by comparison, it would be a naught on the end of that, would it, for Hastings?
I'm not certain where their final figure has landed. I guess if you consider the amount that the government has said that they will fund is $92.5 million, and that is 50% of the overall. Oh, right. Okay, cost.
That gives me some idea. Yeah.
So you can crunch your numbers from there as to what Hastings will be.
Oh, well, that's way more than 35 million then, isn't it? From their point of view.
Yeah.
That is going to be a huge impost upon their rates and upon their debt. And like you don't have any debt already, Kirsten.
And yes, again, this is where here in Napier we're quite lucky. Lucky, I shouldn't say that. We've managed our finances well. We have very low debt. And again, you know, each individual council has their own debt situation. So these are all the different factors that we're having to consider. These are all the different factors that we're having to discuss with our community and ensure that they understand, so that, you know, they can be informed in their decision making. So it really is incredibly complex.
Yeah, I bet you, though, that Napier ratepayers are quite happy now that they didn't vote for amalgamation, Kirsten.
Well, I have had a number of people make that comment to me of recent times, yes.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. Mind you, still got to sort out your radiology department yet, don't you?
Oh, look, we've got to sort out our whole local hospital, Michael. It's in a very sad state.
What do you put that down to, Kirsten? Seriously, I mean, you're a big area, Napier, Hastings, all of the Hawke's Bay. It's a desirable area to live, as we both know. So it should be able to attract specialist clinicians and staff. Why are you in this sort of chaos?
And, just purely speculating, but I think a part of the issue would just simply be the state of our infrastructure here, the state of our hospital and our facilities. And, medical people do not want to go and work in a building that's falling down around them. And there are so many reasons people would want to come and work here. So, like you say, it sort of is a little bit of a mystery, but certainly our hospital is in a state of just disrepair, and we desperately need investment in our infrastructure and facilities here in Hawke's Bay.
Does it piss you off a bit when you see that $1.4 billion is going to be spent on a new hospital in Dunedin, just in Dunedin, which is roughly the same size as Hawke's Bay?
Oh, look, it does, and without actually being, aware of what the state of their hospital is like, of course. So, these could be falling down more than ours is. But, our priority is here for our Hawke's Bay people. We've got the one hospital in Hastings. That in itself is an issue. Not suggesting we need a whole hospital in Napier, but we definitely need a much better standard and level of primary care within Napier City. Post-cyclone for, a number of days, we were cut off from our regional hospital because we couldn't get across to Hastings. Yep. Like I say, I think that there has just been, for a number of years now, an underinvestment in health services for the Hawke's Bay population, and it's something that I have been being quite vocal about since the cyclone hit us.
Oh, and good on you. I mean, that's your job as Mayor, and it's good that you're not shrinking from that. But I suggest this is just between you and me, and obviously our platform listeners, but that it would be useful if you had a Labour Minister of Health in your area, but that's what happened in Dunedin. And it's a solid Labour area, just quietly.
Well,
yes.
I mean, who would I?
Yes, I know. Actually, now on that, you've got, the really interesting thing about Napier, and it never used to be Napier, but it is now just because of demography and things like that. The election's in less than 2 months' time. Gosh, it's not very far away at all. Do you, as a local government leader, perceive the election that is going to happen in less than 2 months' time as quite critical for your community, or do you think, it'll be business as usual, whoever gets in?
Oh, no, I think it is absolutely critical for us, considering our current environment. Cyclone Gabrielle has highlighted so many things for the Napier population that really, really need to be looked at. And we need to ensure that we've got a local MP and a government that is prepared to make a commitment to our people and to advocating and getting behind us and helping us get the much needed investment that we need in our local community.
Yes, I can see where you're coming from, without it trying to influence anybody's vote. Your problem would be if you ended up with an opposition MP, really, wouldn't it? An opposition local MP who doesn't have access to the cabinet ministers at all, or the government's inside work.
Yes, well, that is always the challenge, isn't it? And I guess we just now need to wait for the next 2 months to pass us by and see what comes out the other side.
Kirsten, you're doing a fantastic job as Mayor. I was delighted to see you get elected. You've got that sort of energy and dynamism that, frankly, Napier needs. And I have to say the city's a credit to you and your council. It is a very desirable place at the moment.
Oh, look, thank you so much, Michael. And we're pretty proud of our city, and we just, are committed to doing everything we can for our community.
Good on you. Okay, thanks for joining us. Have a great week. That is Kirsten Wise. She is the Mayor of Napier.